Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. You'll get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And when I'm not asking Bruce, hey, how big was Batista's? Well, you know. One of the things I like to do is help people save money. And if you're watching this video right now and you're in a 30-year loan, man, you're overpaying your single biggest bill and you may not even realize it. I want you to do a little experiment for me. Take your calculator out, multiply your monthly house payment by 360 payments. That's how many payments there are in a 30-year loan. That big scary number, that's your total of payments. You're looking at that number? You know you can do better. Keep more of your own money right now and go to savewithconrad.com. Or maybe you've got credit card debt. Man, it's not a matter of if I can save you money with that. Your average interest rate on a credit card is more than 20%. And by the way, all the interest you pay on those credit cards, it's not tax deductible. Whereas the mortgage interest, well, that is tax deductible. So if you owe this debt, it's up to you how to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to get the cheapest rate possible and the greatest tax deduction possible? Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. Even scores in the 500s can be approved, and it's no cost out of pocket. But maybe best of all, we're licensed in more than 40 states. We can help more families than ever before. But how much can we save you? Find out right now for free with a quick quote from savewithconrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard. Bruce, what's going on, man? How are you?
Okay, who submitted that question, and does that count as one of the Ask Bruce Anything?
Yes, Conrad from Huntsville wants to know, Bruce, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty damn good, as a matter of fact. How in the hell are you doing?
Man, I'm good. You know, we heard from you a couple of weeks ago that you had just had quite the haul on Paul Bosch memorabilia. To get us started today, find anything good lately?
I'm finding a lot of interesting tidbits of things. For example, the different machinations of his last will and testament, which proved to be very interesting, and notes about why he made certain changes to that. And then going through, Paul had some interesting tastes and loved to travel the world and loved to pick up tidbits from other cultures. For example, I'm staring at a package in the studio portion of my office of bamboo spears from New Guinea.
What?
Okay? Bamboo spears from New Guinea.
No, I don't know what you're saying right now.
Do you know what a bamboo spear is?
I don't understand why he has it.
Well, he went to New Guinea, I think in like 1941, and was intrigued again by the culture. Paul loved world travel, and Paul loved to study cultures other than our own. So he was fascinated by these handmade spears that New Guinea tribesmen would carve, and brought back a bunch of New Guinea spears. He used to have them on the ceiling of his office, kind of like all fanned out. It's kind of a pretty cool display. Now they're all wrapped up and packed up, but they're sitting in here. I don't know why they're sitting in here, but maybe my wife got sick of them being down in the basement and moved them. I've got a hand drawing that Don Fargo drew for Paul, of Paul, kind of like sitting on a ring post with the microphone in his hand as if he was doing commentary, and mayhem ensuing below, as well as a hand punched or looped, like a carpet art of the Pro Wrestling King of Sports symbol. That's up here in the studio now. So yeah, a lot of pretty interesting, cool tidbits. And I know what you're going to say. Why don't I post some of these? Maybe I will. Maybe I'll start posting some of these this weekend and have folks take a look and just see some of the deals. I actually put up in the main part of my office, I've got his boots, which were bronzed in a real cool display. I've got those up on the above the fireplace, as well as this ring that was handmade that was always a favorite of mine, a wrestling ring. And I've got some statues in both of those. And I got some cool statues and just different displays. And I'll maybe take some pictures and shoot those out to everybody this weekend.
See, I knew I'd get you to come around. Here's a little pro tip for you, boys and girls. If you have regular interactions with Bruce Prichard and he's not in a good mood, ask him about Paul Bosch and he'll cheer right up for you.
I'm in a great mood.
Okay, motherfucker. You ain't got to get hot.
Wait a minute. Hang on. And now, as you're saying this, dude, why in the hell are you messaging me on Twitter?
All right. Because one of those is a question and it's a visual question. I need you to be able to see it in order to answer it. So here's the question. We've been asked this several times. Jonathan Addo, for whatever reason, wants to know, can someone #ask Bruce or just tell me who the guy is in the picture that looks like hey, it's Conrad. So over on the right side of the photo, over your left shoulder, there's a cutoff of a fellow with dark hair and a big ass beard. And he looks like a happy Dom DeLuise, which I guess also looks like me. So who is that fellow? So we could never get that question again.
You like that action shot of me though, don't you? Where did this picture come from? This is actually a personal picture of mine.
It's one that you provided to the WWE Network somewhere along the way, and they used it as B-roll.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. Well, you know what we're going to do though? We're going to move, if you're looking at the picture, from left to right, and I'll save the answer to the question for the very last one.
First of all, where is this? Is this the Bosch office back in the day?
Yeah, this was my office in the Bosch office. Yes.
Okay.
And, God damn, this is okay.
Oh,
so
wait,
over
you know
my
what?
fireplace,
You gave this to Evan. Look in the bottom right. It says Viceland. So this is from season 1 of Dark Side of the Ring before that became a no-go for you.
Those criminals, they stole my personal property. So, the picture all the way, so I'm going to work left to right if you're looking at the picture, is a picture of Dory Funk Jr. with a reverse chin lock on Johnny Valentine. Now, Dory's father-in-law, maybe, I don't know, somebody painted that picture, like made a painting of that. And I have that picture also hanging over my fireplace in my main office. So that's kind of cool. From there, you go on over to the next picture, and that is Ernie Ladd doing a big splash, caught in the middle of a big splash. Right behind my head on the left side, that's Pepper Gomez and George Scott battling to get the other one over. And then next to that is the heel second, Tommy Fouché, throwing a cup of water in Johnny Valentine's face, while Toru Tanaka is in the background, and it was a taped fist match. And then the gentleman that looks much like a happy Conrad is Whiskers Savage, who was a big draw, a kind of a novelty, Hillbilly Jim, Haystacks Calhoun type character of the 1950s.
I just threw him in my Google machine. It looks like he was with us from 1900 until 1967. So, yeah, how about that?
How about that?
Believe it or not, a few years ago, Edge actually made a tweet about that guy. And he says, in the WWE warehouse today and stumbled on a photo of Whiskers Savage at Real Mick Foley. I had no idea you had another alter ego, Sweet Pompadour.
Sweet Pompadour. Was that a question?
No, just commenting that I'd never heard of Whisker Savage until just now. And it turns out, I got to do some dusting off of my old, wrestling almanacs from the 60s to catch up.
Yes, you do. Whiskers was a huge draw and one of the original, country hillbilly type characters.
Ladies and gentlemen, in case you haven't figured out, we're doing a hashtag Ask Bruce Anything episode today. We're fresh off the heels of a fun show last week where we talked about Saturday night's main event from July 28th, 1990. We probably did an hour before we ever actually pressed play. So we covered a lot of news and notes and then got to watch the show with Bruce. We've got some fun bonus episodes coming your way, and you would have gotten this show early and ad-free over at adfreeshows.com. Next up, we've got Bob Backlund next week on the 21st. We'll be back with one of our most requested shows ever, SummerSlam 2005, which sold all kinds of pay-per-views with Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels on top. Lots to dissect there. And then we'll round up the month of August with SummerSlam 1990. And I know what you're thinking. Are you ever going to cover SummerSlam 92? You're darn right we are, later this month over at adfreeshows.com. But let's get back to some questions. Art Tavana wants to know, financially, what was the WWE's most successful piece of merchandise? Was it the ice cream bars, Austin 316 t-shirts, championship belts? What would you guess?
I'd probably have to, if I was to guess, I don't know the answer. If I was to guess, I would probably say Austin 316.
Yeah, I think as far as a t-shirt, that's probably got to be number one, but it is a fair question because replica belts have become so popular and you guys have to have a good margin on that. That's your highest priced piece of merch, right?
It's a good one.
Let's keep it going here. Joseph wants to know, is there a subject that you wish Conrad would cover with one of his other hosts that you could listen back and say they're wrong? Have you listened to another episode, or is there a topic you would love to hear someone's take on just so you could shit on it?
Well, everybody other than me is wrong.
Well, we know that. That's been well established.
Okay. You're going to have to explain this one to me a little bit.
I think the idea is, has there been an episode where my co-host was full of shit, whether it was Eric Bischoff, Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, Arn Anderson, whoever.
I've never listened to him.
Yeah, no surprise. I mean, you give 38 free minutes a day. I don't think you're downloading. I mean, that 38 minutes would be one Eric Bischoff answer. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go.
On Deck 316 wants to know, what are some matches or events that are typically held in high regard that you just don't care for? Is there one? Like for me, you know where I'm going to go with this. I think the WrestleMania 12 main event's overrated. Not because
oh my God. And you're so wrong.
Not because I don't like Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels' work. I absolutely do. I hated the gimmick match of an Iron Man match because it feels like, I'll just tune in at the end. I didn't have the edge of the seat drama that I would during a traditional match. So that in particular is one that sticks out to me. Is there one that you're just not a fan of? Maybe because there's too much blood and guts, or it's not your cup of tea with quote unquote garbage wrestling or something like that?
One specific match or an event?
Either or.
Well, I go back to the concept of, and the pay-per-view concept of the King of the Ring. And I've always kind of been a fan of tournaments and things like that, but I think that some of those didn't really live up to the hype. As far as matchups and that big match feel that just kind of never really lived up to the hype. I'll give you one that stunk the joint out. God rest his soul, Roddy Piper and Jerry Lawler. I would have, because they're both so great on the mic. I thought that they would old school tear it down in an old school way, and instead it was just kind of old.
I don't hate that answer. Let's jump to another one here. We've talked a lot about belts on this show. What is Bruce's least favorite belt of all time?
Design, look, or concept?
Either or. God damn, you've got so many follow-ups.
Well, I'm trying to be
Eric Bischoff.
Conversational here.
How about try to be entertaining, motherfucker? Give me something.
Well, I'm trying to be fucking entertaining here because I think that as far as concept, that the 6-man tag team championships that were just created for the Von Erichs and the Freebirds was just silly.
I agree. Design-wise, what do you hate?
Design-wise,
Spinner.
Spinner is fucking excellent, man. I probably have to say the tag team championship belts that are now in the WWE.
So did you like them when they were like copper or bronze?
Copper Penny, hated them.
So you just hate the design overall?
Hate the design.
I got you.
Really hated the copper penny look.
Have you seen the,
I'll give you another one. The Southwest Tag Team Championships, San Antonio Southwest Championship Wrestling. Those were the most god-awful championship belts of all time. Their Southwest title was the drizzling shits Mickey Mouse looking belt, but the tag team titles were the lamest ever in the history of lame championship belts.
where are you at on the 24/7 belt?
Love it.
Hypothetically, do you think the new United States title needed some blue paint behind the stars at the top?
Subjective. I think it would have made it pop. And if I was doing it, I probably would have done that. So, but I like it. I like it. I like the 3-dimensional aspect of it.
So you've seen it up close. We haven't, of course. Do you like it better than the one it replaced?
Absolutely.
Have you seen the TNT belt, like their version of the TV belt that Cody's rocking, that because of COVID, they didn't get
I
to
have
finish?
not.
Well, they didn't get to finish plating it. So it's just like the zinc plate. It hadn't been like polished nickel. So, it's an interesting sort of working man's belt right now. Ryan wants to know, you recently talked about Diesel, and I wondered how much a heel Mr. Perfect fighting for the strap could have helped Diesel's babyface championship run. That's an interesting idea. We know that eventually Kurt is going to put the tights back on. Do you think he could have been somebody to help Diesel get over? And I mean, he would have sold his ass off for him, I'm sure.
If it was the old Mr. Perfect, the original incarnation of Mr. Perfect, absolutely would have been able to help Diesel because he was just that good. In later years, no, I don't think that in that time frame that Kurt would have been able to help him as much as he could have earlier.
Nicholas Hill wants to know, with the state of the business in flux right now, where does Bruce see the business in the near future? Will things only get better with adding fans back in?
I sure hope so. And I think that, I think that everything gets better once we get back to some sort of normalcy, and time will only tell on that. So yeah, who the hell knows? I don't think anyone has that answer.
Here's a great question. This is from Joe Yu. He says, is it true that the building housing Tracks, the location of season 1 Tough Enough, is owned by the WWE and they only charge $1 rent to the company that occupies the other 98%? If true, another great charitable deed done by the WWE.
I have no fucking idea. For years, Tracks was just the building kind of down the hill from where the TV studio is, but I didn't know that it had any other tenant.
Ken Patera's pet raccoon, Josh.
I know him.
Wants to know, what were Bruce's thoughts on Don Morocco's face run? I thought Jesus Christ Superstar was a great theme.
Thank you. Believe it or not, that was something that came about in a meeting looking for Don's music and ribbing Vince about his production. He did a live production of Jesus Christ Superstar in a park in the middle of a thunderstorm. And I started just saying, yeah, you could do Jesus Christ Superstar. And he's saying it just to kind of mess with him. And then it was like, God damn, that's it. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, and there you go.
Friend of the show, Efren, wants to know, Bruce, what can you tell me about the NWA Pacific Northwest heavyweight champion turned WWF enhancement talent turned angriest referee ever, Jack Kruger? This guy would get so pissed in the ring. Did they ever have to tell him to tone it down? And he has a clip here from WrestleMania 4 where he's really giving the business to the $1 Million Man.
Yeah, Jack was one of those old timers, that super nice guy. I don't know a lot about him. The only thing that I really knew about Jack is when he was a referee with WWE. So see, that's news to me. I didn't know that he was a Pacific Northwest, whatever, Fernham Snavitz champion of the Hill there in Eugene, Oregon, with Elton Owens and all that shooting shit.
Hey, I saw something a couple of weeks back, and it was on Twitter, and it was a video clip of Gordon Soley and Ole Anderson on Georgia Championship Wrestling opening a box from a fan, and Ole, clearly trying to do the ribbing, says that it was from Ethel Schnavitz, and he opens it up, and they would describe it as a confectionery item of some sort. And there seems to be chocolate on the bottom. It's a chocolate dick. And Gordon Sully says, "Did you model for that?" as they quickly shut the box. Did you ever see this? Can you believe this actually made air on TBS, chocolate dicks?
Well, I'm not even going to say it.
I'm just saying, like, the idea that they knew they were going to do this. I mean, Schnavitz is a fucking worker name, right? I mean, you guys have always made that bullshit word up for make-believe whatevers, right? And so when I'd only heard you do it, and then I started to hear Taz and some other guys say it randomly, and it started to pique my interest a little bit. And then I heard Ole say it, and I'm like, oh, fuck, this is all a planned whatever for TBS. This is unreal.
Little scary. And it's interesting that you would bring up Efren, and that made you think of a chocolate penis.
No, that's not exactly what it was.
Well, it was a hell of a segue, is all I'm saying.
Okay, but you said Schnavitz in the answer when you were talking about the Pacific Northwest.
Actually, I said Snapes.
Whatever. You said that word, and it made me think, hey, I forgot to mention this to Bruce.
Yeah, back then you could get away with a lot more, so to speak, and in that kind of way, I guess.
So you saw it, and it was just to pop the boys, and everybody had a funny ha-ha?
Yeah.
Ken Patera's pet raccoon, Josh, what a name, wants to know, who was Bruce's favorite guest from the Brother Love show?
God, going back, it was my favorite probably was always Hulk, because it just was just so goddamn easy, and no matter what you did, you got a pop. I also just loved working with Roddy, because we would try to one-up each other all the time, and I never knew what the hell he was going to do. So to that extent, that was probably the most fun, because you could just get out there and roll. And some of the worst were, Dino Bravo and Ron Bass, rest their souls, that were just god awful horrible, and you had to do the promo for them.
I didn't know this was a thing. Jordan Biffle wants to know, I've been wanting to know how.
Oh, come on. That's not a real name. Now you're making shit up.
How Todd.
Might as well say it was Jordan Schnapes.
You remember Todd Packer getting involved with the WWE in the early 2000s as a guy who would protest during Godfather's matches?
Todd Packer?
It's the guy from Anchorman 1 and 2. He wore the cowboy hat. His real name is David Kochner or something like that. You know him. Famous comedian. It's on Twin Peaks.
Yes, I do know who he is. Yeah.
Okay. You guys had him planted, I guess, to distract the Godfather. I don't know. It was a fun little thing that I didn't know existed. I mean, he had like a little picket sign that says the WWF is immoral. You sent WWE security over to take care of him, and boom, that was enough distraction for Pete Gas to lay the wood to him.
Pete laid the wood to the Godfather?
Yep. Well, a little help from his friends, the Main Street Posse and whatnot.
Son of a bitch. A big fan, old Todd Packer was, and why not do something with him? Because people did know who the hell he was, and he was an awful lot of fun. But a good guy, and just a fan. So it's like, hey, man, make him a part of it.
Lenny Bakken wants to know, with Vince being such a workout freak, has he ever encouraged or even insisted that his inner circle work out with him as well?
Not insisted. It's especially not with him. I used to work out with him all the time, but no, never really been insisted. It just happened to be right place, right time. Encouraged, yes, to work out.
Charlie Thrower wants to know, during the Ruthless Aggression special on the WWE Network, Bruce, you have on a gold ring that faintly resembles Paul Bosch's. Is this the ring you lost? And if not, were you able to find it during your recent move to Connecticut?
I have not found the ring, and the ring that you see in that is one that I had made by Brad Marks with IW Marks Jewelers there in Houston, Texas. And IW Marks was a longtime sponsor of the Houston Wrestling program, kept us on the air. Come see us and save 3841 Bel Air Boulevard at Stella Link. Hey, Brad, you owe me for that commercial. But Brad Marks made that for me, and that's my kind of homage to Paul, and that's my wrestling ring.
Mark Nielsen wants to know, the grand finale Survivor Series elimination match concept was only used in 1990 with the last match of all the survivors. Is there a reason why this was only used once, as it seemed like a very clever way to create a surprise main event on a unique pay-per-view rule format?
Well, because it sucked, first of all. But second of all, we kind of did it with Bill Watts, with like a Survivor match at the end one time for the 2.5 months that Bill Watts was there. And I don't know that if it was even the same thing, and the Watts deal was so convoluted, it's one of those that I tried to forget, and happy I did.
Talent wants to know, why was creative so much different per era? There's the Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era, and now the PG era. What made those changes? Is it all Vince, the fans, creative?
It's the world. The world changes, tastes change, and what the audience is looking for changes over time, and you adapt and you try to adapt to your audience and change. Change is good. If you look at, any programming, it's all for the audience more than anything else. And I think during the time when you go back and you look at the change from the WWF, the new generation, to the Attitude Era, that was during a time that people had a lot more attitude. Our society had more attitude. So in looking at that helped change the product. And when you look at Ruthless Aggression, that was a shoot. That was during the time of, who wants to step up and take it? And over time, shit changes. So you got to change with the times.
Dylan Huffman wants to know, what kind of Rolex does Bruce have? Any other jewelry?
Do I have any other jewelry?
Well, the stuff that you wear every day. You just explained you've got this Paul Bosch ring, or sort of an homage to that you had made. And I think most people see your gold Rolex on most of the videos, but occasionally you'll rock something that's stainless. And, we get in the weeds sometimes on these Ask Whatevers, because people who listen to this know that I'm a watch guy. So we talk about watches. So share what you'd like, unless you're worried about a mugging.
Well, I'm rocking my Omega right now, which is my 007 Quantum Solace Omega, numbered. Give you a little trivia tidbit on this. I went to the Quantum of Solace. All my jewelry shit goes back to Brad Marks. But they had the premiere of the movie. Got to go to the premiere, and he had 2 of these watches sequentially numbered. And there's only so many made, and I got 2 of them and gave the other one to John Layfield for his birthday. So John and I have sequentially numbered watches of our Omega, whatever the hell kind of thing this is. But the Rolex is a president's.
You don't tell any details on that one?
No, it's president's, gold bezel. Diamond bezel. Previously owned.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Drew Landry wants to know, was Mr. Perfect's best match against Bret Hart at SummerSlam 91 for the Intercontinental title? And why didn't we ever see them lock up for the world title?
Well, because Mr. Perfect was already gone by then. But, Perfect, you'd be hard pressed to find a bad match that Kurt ever had. Even when Kurt wasn't the Kurt of old. Kurt was just so damn great that he never really had a bad match. The SummerSlam match with Bret, off the chart, tremendous. But I also go back and look at what Kurt did with guys. Hulk Hogan and Kurt had some of the most incredible matches of all time, because Kurt bumped all over the place and made Hulk look like a gazillion bucks. So You look at Kurt Hennig, you look at the body of work, shit, man, very few could touch it.
Just so you know, technically when Mr. Perfect came back out of retirement and he was no longer the executive consultant and was sort of a last minute replacement for the Warrior situation.
Brett was champion.
Yes.
Yeah, I get it.
So just for whatever reason, you just felt like, hey, we don't need that. We need different opponents. We need a bigger style or.
They were both baby faces.
Oh, there you go. Charlie Thrower wants to know, Mr. Prichard, did you have any dealings with Herb Abrams? Secondly, what was the word on him throughout the WWF or the industry from your standpoint?
Never met Herb Abrams, and have absolutely no idea. I think that for the most part, looking at Herb Abrams and what Herb was doing at the time with the UWF, it wasn't a big threat, and Herb was just going out trying to get everybody that he could that had previously worked at the WWE. So that one wasn't somebody that we were like going, oh my God, Herb Abrams.
Charlie Thrower wants to know, do either of you guys have any fun or embarrassing road stories about the other one from your live show days?
You first.
I got nothing.
Then neither do I.
I knew how to play that shit. Andrew wants to know, people always say everything goes through Vincent Kennedy McMahon for approval. How hands-on is Vince with products like video games? Does he get involved? Like, does the team show him mock-ups of the game for him to approve, or what's that look like?
No, he has people that does that. I'll tell you my favorite video game, incident with Vince is when my kids were very young. They came to the office. We were there, and when I say young, they had to be like maybe 3 or 4, but old enough to have some idea what to do on a video game. And right outside of our office in the TV studio was one of the arcade video games that you could play while you're waiting there. And so I pulled up a chair and put my son on the chair, and Kane's sitting there and he's playing this video game. And as usual, we're waiting for Vince to come into the meeting, to join the meeting. And when he came in, he saw my wife and kids there and was saying hello and all this shit. And Kane's over there playing a video game. Hey, pal, what are you doing? And Vince sat there and played this arcade video game for like 15 minutes with Kane. Now, Vince had no clue what the hell he was doing, and neither did my son, but they played for 15 minutes, and Vince is sitting there moving the controller and pounding the damn thing. And I'll never forget Brian Gewirtz coming out, because everybody was in the room waiting on Vince, and he came out to go to the bathroom or something and sees Vince. They're playing a video game, and Stephanie came in there and was like, we've all been waiting on you in here, and he's out here playing video games with my kid. So that's my favorite just video game story with Vince. Has nothing to do with the other stuff. That's people that know what the hell they're doing. That's like asking me to give input on a video game.
You know, it's funny because, here's a peek behind the curtain. We got an email from our great folks who support us over at Westwood One. And they said, hey, Conrad, how many of your co-hosts are gamers? And I had to be honest. And I said, okay, let's play hypotheticals here. I have a PS4. Bruce Prichard has a PS4 only because his son has a PS4. And she's like, what about everybody else? I'm like, baby, my co-hosts are fucking grandpas. They don't have games.
Not me.
Not yet. But you know what? The way Kane's been, well, never mind. Jason wants to know, now that Bruce is older and has more financial security, has making the move back to WWE been a good decision, or maybe one he is regretting because of the schedule and demand on his time?
I love every day of my life.
I'm sure.
I do. Now here's the thing. Let me expound. I don't talk about shit now. Okay, we have that rule.
Yeah, we're not.
All right. This is about the past. But let me go ahead and expound on that a little bit. I have lived to be a part of this business since I was 4 years old.
Right.
And to be 57 years old and still be a part of it and get to do something that I truly love every day of my life, and to still be a part and still have a passion for it is crazy as it gets, and as little sleep as I am afforded. We had tonight to get this done. I'm like, bear with me, man. I promise you, I'm gonna have time. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get this in tonight. And last minute, I'm getting ready to leave. I'm at 1 hour, and I had to put a time on it so I can hit it. And I swear to God, man, I was opening up the computer and just hitting it when the sound of the gimmick of you calling me in. I love it. I absolutely love every single day of my life, and I don't regret a single thing. Sometimes I question it, and I want to bang my head against the wall and wonder where I was 2 years ago, especially when the weather's nice and I'm thinking about a pool. But I also think, wow, why not? And I actually love working, so it's pretty cool.
No, we're just busting balls that you have 31 free minutes a week for the pod. That's all. You ain't got to be so goddamn sensitive.
Well, I am a little fucking sensitive. I'm a sensitive guy.
Which is why I started to warm you up by telling you to tell us about that boring Paul Bosch shit nobody cares about right at the top of the show.
They all care about it. That's why Houston Wrestling, available in the archives, is the #1 most downloaded podcast of all time.
That's not
in
even
the history of
remotely
all podcasts ever.
Okay. Now we're speaking truth. Scoops wants to know, when guys get fined, how is that done? Is it withheld from their future checks or earnings? Do they have to cut a check back to the company? If it's the latter, where does that money go? The NBA and NFL
I have no idea how it's done. I'll tell you how it used to be done.
Okay.
You used to just withhold it from their check. If it was too much, you'd do it in increments. If it was a big fine, then you did it in increments.
Rajiv wants to know, did you feel like in your short time with TNA, both times, that you helped make their product better?
Well, yes, I think I made it my first time there. The second time there, I was there as a talent and wasn't there long enough one way or another. However, the first time, I think that I was able to slow it down a little bit and allow it to tell a little more logical stories. That's my opinion. Some people may disagree, and that's why we all have assholes and opinions.
Lenny Bakken wants to know, and by the way,
Lenny again?
Well, here's the thing. This is a good question, but it's always interesting when a money guy asks this question, because it feels like he's trying to, I don't know, do an application with you. Personal friend of the show and a big time investor guy, Lenny Bakken.
And Lenny went to our first ever
live
show.
Yes, he did.
Yep.
He has a question for you here, Bruce. I think he's angling for some more loot to come his way. He says, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
He already knows the answer to that question.
Alive.
Here, I hope so anyway. Things change, man. Shit happens sometimes. So if I were looking into a crystal ball and I had any control over it, I would be same place that I am now, and that the business would be stronger and better than ever. So that's what I hope, and that's what I work towards. I try not to think about it really, and just try to put your head down and work one day at a time and move forward. That's I've learned. I have goals. I have ambitions, but I internalize it a lot more than I ever used to, and just bore forward.
It is an interesting question though, because I think a lot of people sort of subscribe to, like, I'm on a 62 retirement plan, a 65 retirement plan, or I'm on the work forever plan. Not because, they have to necessarily, they just enjoy it. Like, Jim Ross is north of 65 and he just wants to keep working because he's having fun. I sort of imagine you have a similar take on all this.
I do. There's often times that I've thought about, wow, if I could only just kick back and do a podcast one day a week.
You mean like 2 years ago?
Yeah. But the reality of it is that the less you do, the more you want to do, but really the more you do, the more you want.
Yeah.
So when we really started cranking everything up and started getting busy, and I was doing a lot of other projects and working on other things, that's when I really started wanting even more. In the beginning, I was content.
Right.
Yeah, we'll do this, man. All right. If it does well, does well. If not, this is what we're doing. But as time went on, it became, fuck, man, we could do more. We could do this. We could do that. And you want more.
Success is addicting.
It is. And work is addicting. And it's a lot of fun. So, I mean, I said work. I don't know that I've ever had to really work.
Oh, during COVID, you've been working. Let me ask Vince's, well, you don't have to answer. Vince's reaction to The Rock becoming part owner of the XFL. That's another question that we got. Realistically, I imagine there's more to that story. What was your reaction to Rock being the guy announced this week as one of the people who are going to try to dust off the XFL for the third time?
Happy as shit for him. And knowing that, if you watch Ballers,
Yeah, it's a real life episode.
Yeah, I mean it really is, and it's a real Dwayne Johnson goal. And this guy, speaking of hard work, I've never seen anybody other than Vince that works as hard as him, and he is constantly driven, has goals, and busts his ass, and doesn't get anything for free. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy that it's staying alive. And I'm happy that someone that I know has a hand in molding it and being a part of it. So Rock has a love of football, always has. And for him to achieve that, I think that's cool as shit.
Here's a fun one from Charlie. He says, Bruce, is there heat between you and the great Brian Last? I enjoy listening to Jim Cornette's pods, but it seems like his co-host is always taking shots at you.
Yeah, I don't know the guy. Don't know anything about him. Don't know him. Don't care.
Mike wants to know, why do you think WWE gets so much flack online for television ratings when profits are up year by year? The company seems to be making a better profit than ever in a forever changing digital landscape, and I think it's unfair. I think it's just a holdover from the Monday Night Wars where, people were at the edge of their seat on Tuesdays. They wanted to see what it was, but everything's changed in a major way, and it's maybe not the indicator it once was because of the television rights. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that when you look at the overall scope of media and the way that everybody consumes their entertainment today, that, it's one small part.
This is an interesting question. And me and you've never talked about this, but we have had like a half a text about it, but I didn't get any vibe one way or another. David Lackey says the NBA is using a Microsoft format to have actual fans in the audience on a screen. Would WWE consider doing something of that nature and selling tickets? I'm attaching a picture of a good friend of mine and a close friend of Charmel's who you might have known through Reality of Wrestling. The concept being everybody's got like a new way of sort of putting fans in the crowds. And so we've seen some with, cardboard cutouts, some it looks like they're, watching a Madden game or some sort of video game. There's lots of different people trying different things. Have you had a chance to catch any of that? Did any of it intrigue you one way or another?
I tell you, I think that a lot of it's intriguing, and watching what Fox Sports has done with the baseball games and the way that they've digitally included fans in their audio. And I think that everyone should stay tuned and see what's next. We're always evolving and always trying to do something new. So to that, I'll say stay tuned, and I hope you're not disappointed. But I think for the most part, everyone in this space that is trying to look at ways to incorporate the audience and make it different than what it is. Very intriguing, and we're in some interesting times right now.
Rajiv wants to know, when you think of your career as a whole, do you have a single favorite memory?
Yeah, I mean, put it all into one thing. I go back to WrestleMania 17 and walking out as Brother Love in the Houston Astrodome in front of a hometown crowd. That was just, that audience, that spotlight, that spectacle was one of those, that was one of my favorite moments, to be able to do that and experience it on a worldwide stage, but in front of hometown. That was pretty intense.
I would imagine your SummerSlam Brother Love show from Madison Square Garden, that's got to be up there too, right?
Oh, without a doubt, because again, you know, if you can't make it in New York, you can't make it anywhere. Or if you can't make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. But the Garden's the Garden, and there's something special about Madison Square Garden. That, and it was the first SummerSlam. That, and we were on pay-per-view. It was the largest crowd I'd ever worked in front of at the time. You add all of that into the live production, pretty intense. And that was, I can't remember a time ever, in any performance setting where I didn't go out with butterflies and nervous and thinking about, you know, what I was going to do. I don't think that there's ever been a time in my career or anything else where I was performing that I didn't walk out with butterflies. I can go out in front of a group of 10 people. If I'm the center, I'm scared. I got butterflies. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do.
Let's do a question here from Tony Flowers. And this is one me and you've never really talked about. When you're thinking about coming back to WWE, was there any episode of Prichard's show or comment that you had made on Something to Wrestle that you thought, man, I wish I hadn't said that?
No.
I didn't think so. Feels like you've always sort of played it fair here as much as possible.
Well, again, I've always gone by the credo, and you know this, of I never got when people left somewhere that they would knock it.
Right.
Especially if they spent any time there. I had a blast. I had an absolute blast with all my runs in WWE. And to shit on them is crazy. Those people were my friends. Those people were a part of making my life unique and spectacular. So to that, I had a blast. There were some bad moments, but there were some incredibly great moments, and I choose to remember the really great moments. You can remember the bad ones, but don't dwell on them or you're going to drown yourself.
In fairness, we did have quite the time shitting on TNA that one time.
But even that, I had fun at TNA, and I didn't go into that to shit on anybody. You shit on people. You like to shit. I don't.
I like to get you fired up. Is what I like.
Well, you're fucking doing it.
Well, here's one that'll make you happy. What was your favorite match from the Houston wrestling days? Do you have one you could recommend?
All of them, for fuck's sake. You know, the entire angle with Jose Lothario and Gino Hernandez, spectacular storytelling, spectacular, student teacher story, great stuff. But as a kid, I remembered anything with Johnny Valentine and Wahoo McDaniel. They beat the living shit out of each other every Friday night. It was intense, and it made you want to be a part of the business so much more. So all of them were great memories.
Jaden wants to know, were there ever plans for a championship that we never got to see on TV? If so, what were they? And the only one I know of is the Rock belt. Like they had a Smoking Skull, Steve Austin sort of vanity championship. I know they made one for the Rock for whatever reason. It never made air. Can you think of another example?
What, of just like championship belts that were made for people?
Like ideas of belts or championships that for whatever reason never made it to TV. I think once upon a time there may have been tag belts for the women way back in the day that y'all never did anything with, but I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we had the tag team championships for the women with Leilani Kai and Judy Martin.
Okay.
And Jumping Bomb Angels during that time, but it kind of dropped after they left. I'm sure there is. I can't think any off of the top of my head. I know that we have brought up that horrible idea of a 6-man championship, but thank God we didn't do that.
Peter wants to know, was there a moment during the podcast that you thought, okay, I want to keep doing this. I dig it.
Yeah. When we got a guarantee from mid-roll.
Yeah. I mean, I think number one to me is the Radicals episode. Maybe number two is the Sunny episode where we got so tickled we couldn't speak. And then, yeah, getting that first big check from mid-roll, that was, all right, we're going to keep doing this.
Yeah. So, I would have to agree with those particular shows that were just so much fun. And in the beginning, when we used to be able to do them there at the house.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun because it was just us sitting there talking and bullshitting. And in particular, were we drinking during the Sunny one, or was that just was we were goofy and tired?
We were goofy and tired, but we both knew that was a story and we weren't sure if we were going to bring it up. And then when we did at the very end, I think it was both of us thinking the other one was going to tell it. And we just got tickled. And when I start laughing, you start laughing, and down we go. I think the only other time we've laughed that much for real is on that train PSA from a couple years ago. That just,
yeah. There have been a few of them, but the Sunny one hurt because I couldn't stop laughing.
You removed your headset and tried to leave the room because you were in violent pain. The only other time I've seen you laugh that hard is when we were working on the Cornette episode and we're trying to plan for ad transitions because we knew what our ads were. And these days they're just dynamically inserted. That's what she said. But once upon a time, we knew exactly where we wanted to place it. And we were talking about our big sponsor at the time for mesothelioma. And when we got to the George the Rat thing, all I did was spin around and said, what if, and then you finished my thought and literally fell on the floor laughing. What if George the Rat died of mesothelioma? Which is not funny, but it is funny. And yeah, good times.
Yeah. Poor George the Rat.
Jeff wants to know, what were Undertaker's thoughts of the Ultimate Warrior? How did he handle having to work with him?
First of all, it was money. And second of all, it hurt like hell. But Undertaker was also at a place, stature wise, that Warrior didn't work with him the way that he worked with people that were not that big and that could hit back type thing. Not one of his favorite programs by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a big time spotlight issue. So yeah, I think that Taker really liked it from that vantage point because it put him in the spotlight.
Kyle has an interesting question. If you could change any WrestleMania main event and make a match lower on the card, the main event, which would it be and why? It's got to be 18, right? You'd close with Hogan Rock.
Well, I don't think so.
You want the title to go on last?
Hogan Rock was such a special attraction. Look, hindsight's 2020 and it could have gone on last.
Right.
And I look at them through the years. I got one for you. WrestleMania 25. I think that Undertaker Shawn should have gone on last.
Okay. I can buy that.
Instead of Randy and Hunter.
The Rosen Coaster wants to know, if there's one match in wrestling history you could reproduce in cinematic form, what would it be and why?
For a lot of different reasons, WrestleMania 6, Hulk and Warrior. Because it was the two biggest stars in the business at the time. When you go back and you look at those iconic battles, God, could you imagine when you think of the open of WrestleMania 6 and through the eons or whatever the hell it was, and Neptune and Saturn collide, that kind of shit. When you think of some of the things that you could have done with that, no one would have bought it at that time, but that could have been one of those incredibly intense, insane. Andre Hulk, toppling the giant, fee fi fo fum, and a fucking beanstalk and all this other shit. Let the mind go wild, and you have enough of anything, you can get out there.
Pinder J wants to know, how is it determined where someone is billed from? Today, I know it's more based on where a talent is really from, but back in the day, someone like Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake was billed as being from San Francisco when he's really from Tampa.
Yeah, but he looks like he's from San Francisco.
Listen to you.
What?
ABC 17 wants to know, or I'm sorry, ABC 717 wants to know, if you were writing TV at a Stephanie McMahon high school basketball game, were you concerned with someone hearing you? This comes from a story that once upon a time, you just had to go wherever Vince was to write TV, and you famously told the story. Sometimes that meant you followed him into the city to get a haircut because that's where he had time to talk. But
it wasn't always writing TV.
Okay.
And in that particular instance, it was booking, and it was booking towns.
You're just putting together cards for a house show loop. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Justin Davis wants to know, for WrestleMania 5, was there an alternate promo or poster that included Miss Elizabeth but wasn't chosen? Of course, we all remember the WrestleMania 5 poster as that iconic drawing of the Macho Man and Hulk Hogan, the Mega Powers explode. But front and center of that story was Miss Elizabeth. Was there a version considered with her on the poster?
If there was, I never saw it. That would have been cool. Shit. She probably should have been in the middle.
It would have been cool. Ken Brzezinski wants to know, do you think a snake pit type interview segment could work these days with a talent like a Bray Wyatt? It seems like it'd be pretty interesting. I think the gist here is Ken wants to know, would a set like that work? Or in this environment, do you think it's all got to be sort of what Jericho and Miz did, where it's a big monitor and a carpet, blah, blah, blah?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that could work. The answer to the question, Ken, is yes, it could work. And you just have to have the right talent to be able to pull something like that off. And there just aren't that many Brother Loves left.
Thank you for that. Russ Papilla wants to know, when Shane McMahon left the company years ago, why don't you think he ever tried to open up his own wrestling company?
What the hell was her name? What was the name?
Russ.
Oh, but you said it all together. I thought that was all like one long name.
So why didn't you think Shane ever took a stab at opening a wrestling company?
I think that Shane was looking to get away for a time, and I don't know exactly why, but that was something that, for Shane, he probably wanted to get away from the business. And I don't think that he would ever do that.
Brad wants to know, what were your top 3 produced segments or vignettes that you're most proud of? Do you have 3 that stand out?
The $1 Million Man stuff, Mr. Perfect stuff, and Undertaker building the casket for Kamala.
Dude, you had that shit ready to go.
Well, they stand out.
Talent wants to know, who do you think were the 3 worst signings of JR's when he was head of talent relations? I think this probably comes from, and you've heard it for years, whenever anybody does well, JR always sort of tongue in cheek says, I wonder who hired that fellow. But surely there were a couple stinkers along the way, right?
Yeah. Dr. Death was not the greatest hire at the time.
Right.
God, I know that when Al Snow came in, it wasn't always helped with JR's endorsement, but Al Snow got over that and was, got out of Avatar and moved on to being something else and being himself. So Yeah, I don't know, man. That's all subjective, and you try to do the best that you can, and not everybody's going to make it.
Bruce, who's a more shameless shield with all the commercials, Conrad or the MyPillow.com guy? It's pretty close in my estimation.
I don't think it's close at all. We are. My Pillow, dude. Come on, man. You remember when you got your My Pillows?
I have My Pillows.
Yes, you bought My Pillows. I was there.
Okay.
Like 2016 in the summer. You're watching My Pillow and you ordered it right then and there.
Well, I'll tell you, they didn't make a big impression if that's true.
No, they sucked.
Okay, there we go. Well, probably, yeah, then I probably have those because I do not have the best pillow in the world with them, no doubt.
Yeah, I don't want to shit on them,
but especially if they're going to sponsor next week, because we'd be glad to reconsider. Wouldn't that be right,
definitely
Bruce?
would reconsider.
Find out next week with the promo code. We're going to win this shameless deal. Harambe wants to know who would have won in a burger eating contest between Yokozuna, Big Van Vader, and Jim Cornette in 1995.
Okay. If we went back to 85, Cornette would probably win. In 95, probably Yoko.
Yeah. I bet Yoko wins. Captain Zach wants to know, why do you think the WWE stopped running the Cow Palace in San Francisco? It has so much wrestling history and could be nostalgic.
What was the question? Why did they stop running?
Yeah. Stopped running Cow Palace.
The Cow Palace is probably one of the greatest. The Cow Palace to me is like the Sportatorium. Very famous.
But shitty.
Legendary. Drizzling shit, though. I mean, it was a palace for cows. It was a place where they had the cow competitions in San Francisco. It's a place where dirt sheet riders should be underneath in the Bay Area. Underneath the cow shit. Because that's where they belong. But the Cow Palace was the drizzling shit. It was hot. It was I always would, sometimes when you get to places like Boston Garden, spectacular, man. At least the Garden was a big, really nice building, I guess, in its day. But it had no air conditioning. And I hated working there in the summer. It was just like a fucking sauna where the walls sweat. But the Cow Palace was the shits. Always was the shits. The Sportatorium always was the shits. So it just got too old and too shitty to run there anymore.
Here's a fun one. Luke from Eastern Iowa wants to know, do you have any good Jim Dotson stories? We haven't heard much about him. And it's probably a name that some of our listeners don't even remember. Chat us up. Any good Jim Dotson stories?
I wonder if I don't know if I should tell this, but I will. Jim's no longer with us. Bless his heart, rest his soul. But I went to a party for New Year's Eve 1992, I guess. And Jim Dotson was there, and I was doing a video of the party, just kind of doing a video of the party and doing commentary on everyone in the party and what have you. And the cameraman for the video was about 6'10" and a half, long, windy looking like hair. And he was doing the videography for this particular scene. And I walked into a bathroom in the home in which the party was taking place and came upon Jim Dotson in a compromising position with a young lady. And now you know this because you might have heard about these kind of things. I continued to do commentary on what was taking place in this person's home. Now, Jim did not see who the photographer was at the time. Jim's big, jacked up old, country boy. And Jim goes to like kill me, and at the right time the door kind of swings open and he's looking up at the cameraman and realized it probably wasn't the best decision to kill the messenger in that regard. And we always remembered the first time that we quote met was interesting. Can you imagine, Conrad, somebody bursting into a scene like that and doing commentary on it with camera rolling?
Yeah.
Wow. You're a sick puppy is what you are.
Do you want to tell that story?
No.
Cause that's a good one. We might need to put that one behind the paywall. David wants to know, why does Vince McMahon not want the superstars to acknowledge him in their Hall of Fame speech?
I think that Vince just looks at it as it's about them, not him. Simple as that.
Jason wants to know, what do you think has been your son Kane's coolest WWE experience?
Well, he was in the Money in the Bank match.
Do you think that's it?
Yeah, I remember as a kid, Rey Mysterio coming to the ring, putting the mask on him at ringside. Shit like that. Probably playing video games with Vince McMahon, even though I doubt he even remembers that. That was probably more fun for me than anybody.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Mr. William wants to know, if Triple H didn't get hurt when the invasion happened, who would he have been working with, or who would you have liked to see him work with?
A lot of Mr. Perfect questions.
No, this is Triple H, Bubba.
Oh, I thought you said Mr. Perfect.
If Triple H didn't get hurt when the invasion happened, who would he be working with, and who would you have liked to see him work with?
I would have liked to have seen him working with Austin at that time, even though they were together. I would have liked to have seen him working with Austin. And if not Austin, it probably was going to be Kurt.
I'm saying from an invasion standpoint.
Well, that was, but you're saying that was the invasion angle, but you're saying I think the question that they're trying to ask is,
what WCW motherfucker did you want him
anybody from WCW during that time, who would I have wanted him to work with?
Okay.
No?
Whatever you say.
Okay. Probably Hulk.
Mike Whitaker wants to know, when Vince was doing the McMahon $1 million giveaway, was he really giving away his money?
100%. Couldn't, the company's a public company. Couldn't give away company money to do something like that. So it was his own money.
I don't know what you want to say here, but there's a whole bunch of smart asses in the replies, with their stupid smirks. Let's say, why are the ratings worse than they've been in 20 years? Do you want to say anything or just keep it fucking moving?
Keep it moving.
On a serious note,
for those that know, no explanation is needed. For those that don't, none will do.
On a serious note, how many hours of sleep do you get on average?
On average, about 4 hours a night on a good night, but that's an average.
Mr. William wants to know, if next week was your very last episode, what would you want the topic to be when you went out on it? So, gonna go out with a bang, one last big show. What would you want the topic to be? Bruce
is dying.
What?
That would be the topic.
Oh, okay. Cause I see the show has to end because you're ending.
I'm dying. That's how we're going to end.
Another question here.
Unless I just quit.
Josiah wants to know, what can you tell us about the origin of the Nation of Domination? And do you think a similar faction could exist in 2020?
I don't know if something like that could exist now. You never know, but it was a unique way to put Ron Simmons in a prominent spot and be able to protect Ron in the ring, because Ron was injured at the time and we wanted to protect him and keep him healthy as long as we possibly could. And I think it was a strong group. Don't know that you could do that today. Well, I do know you probably couldn't do that today, not in the same form, but I thought it was a pretty damn cool group, and I thought it was a great avenue for Ron Simmons and The Rock.
Jesse Inman wants to know, and we got this in various ways, could you ever see Vince McMahon doing a tell-all type book?
Sure.
No way. That would never happen.
Yeah, I can see it.
Fernando has a fun question here. Hypothetically, Bruce, it's you, Conrad, Tony, JR, Eric, and Arn all going out for dinner and having a few drinks. By the end of the night, who's picking up the tab? And don't say Conrad.
Well, then we're walking.
I was going to say, with your little alligator arms, that shit ain't happening.
Oh, hell yeah. Are you kidding me? I got the Mick Foley reach for the wallet down. You miss the first couple times. It's like, hang on, wait. These damn pockets, they move all the time. I could have sworn it was over here. Well, hey, have you got it? No, hey, let me, I mean, she's got it now. Go ahead and take it. Yeah.
Here's the thing. We can't let JR pay, because if JR pays, we'll never hear the fucking end of it.
Tony won't.
I could see Arn doing it.
I couldn't.
I could see Eric doing it for sure.
Eric would do it. Eric and I would do it. Yeah.
Fernando wants to know, Conrad, what do you think Bruce will do first? A, agree to something the Wrestling Observer publishes. B, let Dave Silva borrow his car.
Ooh.
Or C, eat a pickle. I don't know.
Pickle might win this one.
I'm deathly afraid, but nope, I'll do it.
I mean, I would puke and be violently ill. But the other two just can't happen.
Dustin Nichols wants to know, was Dixie Carter the worst promoter you ever worked for? If not, who gets that honor?
Dixie wasn't a promoter. Dixie was an owner and Dixie was a marketer. There's a big difference. I think as far as promoters, Peter Burkhall's Paul's nephew, without a doubt, hands down the worst ever, personal and professionally. And then, going through looking at different people around the country. Joe Blanchard was not a good promoter. And those are probably at the top of my list.
Michael Eldridge wants to know, pick your poison, Bruce. Edit Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter, or book creative with Jerry Jarrett and Vince Russo for a year.
Oh God. Well, I mean, if you edit, I would take editing the shit sheet because it's just easy to, all you're doing is exiting it out, and then it would only be like a paragraph long.
Mick Dolman wants to know, has Vince ever heard Bruce's impression of him? And if so, what does he think?
Practically every day.
You still do it in front of him?
Absolutely.
That's hilarious. I don't know why that's funny, but it is.
Well, look, guys, pretty much what I am here is what I am in life.
No, I got that, but it's just funny for me to imagine. And I know you wouldn't do it in that setting, but in my head, there's like all the department heads all gathered around a table, and
that's not true, Conrad. I would do it in that setting. I have done it in that setting. I will do it in that setting.
God damn, pal, it's such good shit. It's just tremendous.
Whatever it takes.
Pretty white for a fly guy wants to know, why don't you mute your phone while recording episodes?
Because I'm working all the time.
Man, that seems like,
and I'm sorry if that bothers you so fucking much.
Alrighty. Eldridge wants to know, besides Sting, what other single wrestlers or tag teams does Bruce wish he could have worked with at the height of their career?
Well, Sting is definitely one of those up there. I'll throw the Road Warriors in there, even though I did get to work with them a little bit in Mid-South when they were really catching on. And then by the time that they came to us, I think that it was a little bit different. I would have loved to have had them earlier. And, I got to meet them and go out with them and work with them just a little tiny bit in Mid-South. and they were great guys. It was funny because people were intimidated by them because of their on-screen persona. They're like, oh my God, these guys are crazy. They'll just beat you up. They're just two great guys.
Jason wants to know, what was a better long-term storyline, the Mega Powers Explode or the debut of Kane?
They're different, but for a long-term planned out coming to fruition, the Mega Powers Explode.
Yep.
For a really cool backstory and debut that turned into something beautiful for an extremely long time, Kane.
Chris says, Hogan said on Austin's podcast about a year ago, he wanted to turn heel after WrestleMania 6 and possibly feud with Savage. Could a heel Hogan and babyface Savage have been a bigger draw than their previous feud?
A heel Hogan and a babyface Warrior would have been incredible. I don't know that the reverse roles of Hogan and Savage would have been as big, but you could have gotten there maybe with Elizabeth.
Steve Frazier wants to know, aside from being another way to end a match, where do you stand on the old over-the-top DQ rule? Do you like it?
Always hated it, but I guess growing up on it in the South, it was, it's an easy finish. And when you go back and look at finishes from yesteryear, especially in the 70s, and look at some of the things that were finishes and go, oh my God, it was so simple then. But there were some creative finishes that were done out of it. I still to this day talk about Dory Funk Jr. and hooking a guy in his entire body so they went over the top rope at the same time. And Dory would feign like, hey, no, man, he hit me. We went over together, so you can't disqualify me. And then Dory would roll in right at right before the 20 count. So yeah, not my favorite. I just kind of thought it's like jumping off the top rope. When WCW did that during the Bill Watts era of over the top rope and no off the top rope moves and shit like that, people hated it because it took the excitement out of it. And they eventually changed it, but yeah, not a fan.
Chris wants to know, during the Monday Night Wars, were the wrestlers Vince considered as a necessity that he wouldn't want to leave no matter the cost? And on the other hand, what wrestlers did Vince want the most from WCW?
I don't think that there was anybody from WCW that we wanted. Oh my God, got to have them. The Giant was intriguing. We got the Giant. Besides that, Jericho was intriguing. Jericho came over. But there wasn't anybody, boy, I wish I had him.
Scumbags Wrestling wants to know, what was Brutus Beefcake doing in the mask and barbecue grill on his chest, attacking Earthquake and poof, gone?
God damn, what the hell was that? That was a way to bring Beefcake back with the mask on to protect his face.
Right.
And damn it, what the hell was his name? It was a terrible name too, but it lasted, I think, 2 weeks. And everybody knew it was Beefcake.
Right.
As soon as he hit the ring. So that compounded with the fear of just his face getting shattered again at that point in time wasn't going to work.
Well,
he either came back as Beefcake or didn't come back at all.
Was he the Mariner?
No. It was a goofy name. Originally, it was like the Boogeyman. I think at WCW, they called him the Booty Man or something like that.
Yeah, he's been known as Baron Beefcake, Big Brother Booty, the Booty Man, Brother Brute Eye, Brute Force, the Butcher, the Clip Master, the Disciple, Dizzy Golden, Dizzy Hogan, Ed Boulder, Eddie Golden, Eddie Hogan, the Mariner, the Man with No Face, the Man with No Name, the Zodiac. Lots of silly shit.
Yeah, and none of those are the goofy ass name that we were going to call him. And we never did call him a name, did we?
I
don't think we did.
I think the Cultaholic YouTube channel showed clips of him once upon a time and said that he was going to be called the Mariner. But I mean, you would know if you say no, then that ain't it.
No.
Arguk the Butcher. Ooh, that's a name. What arena has the grossest bathrooms, and who is the one wrestler you don't want to go in there after?
Dick Murdoch, to answer the last question.
Oh, he was dropping bombs.
Oh yeah, Dickie could destroy a bathroom. Well, Sportatorium was not the cleanest or nicest. That would probably rank up there as one of the worst. Or anytime we ran a friggin' rodeo arena.
Oh,
a lot of times you just have nothing but a porta potty.
It's got to be that's got to be bad, a rodeo deal. Brian wants to know, is Goldberg the modern version of the Ultimate Warrior?
You know, Bill's unique, and Bill was a huge draw, man. I don't look at Bill the same way, I guess, because Bill was created, and Bill was a product of this mass hysteria, and Warrior was someone that had time to learn. And once he got there, just really never wanted to get better in that way. I don't know that the Goldberg was that way. I think that deep down, Goldberg really wanted to learn.
The Real T Reynolds wants to know, do you still own Zubaz pants?
I do. Who doesn't?
I knew you were going to say that. Chris wants to know, of all the big money feuds Hogan had, is a feud with Rick Rude the best big money feud that he never had? If not, what is?
Jake.
That would have been tremendous.
I think Jake would have been tremendous. And I think that Jake would have been one of those that you could have got 3 or 4 out of around the horn everywhere.
Jake tells the story that they tried it once on like a house show or something, and the fans were chanting DDT. And supposedly Vince was like, well, that can never happen. We can't have the fans cheer the other guy, not Hogan. And it just sort of went away. Do you remember that being tested at least?
I don't. It may have happened before I got there, but I think that was one that, boy, Jake could have turned him easy. And Hogan was so friggin' hot that it would have been a no-brainer. And it was one that you could get multiples out of.
Instagram, a wrestling historian, wants to know, what's your favorite SummerSlam?
The original, first one.
That was a good one.
Just from nostalgia and me being on it.
JR has shared some stories that when he would go driving from town to town with Vince back in the day, if Vince was driving, he would lock the windows and cut some ferocious gas. Do you have any stories of Vince doing stuff like this with you?
Farting?
Yeah, like really thinking it's hilarious to hotbox you with a real stinker.
Absolutely.
You're gonna tell the
we
story?
all did that.
Did you have a funny story or just yes, no, like a goddamn deposition here on the show today?
We're pretty much doing deposition style today, by God. I've shit my pants trying to top them.
Okay, we got to hear that.
Well, what happens is you go to fart, but sometimes like it sneaks out.
It's a shart.
Then behind it, what?
It's a shart.
Oh yeah, I've sharted many a time.
Just to top
But
it.
the beauty of that in a car is it stays. It lingers. And the more you move around, you can feel it kind of like, ooh, that's going to be ugly when I finally land. So every once in a while, all you got to do is kind of like lift up a little bit and then sit down. And it's like farting all over again.
Jeremy wants to know, would Vince ever allow someone to make a movie about him?
Sure. I think it's just got to be, it's got to be the right the right presentation. You never say never, man. You know, a lot of the steadfast, oh my God, this is the way it is. It just ain't so.
Let me ask, a story or a script was leaked a few years ago about a Vince McMahon biopic, and it had Linda and Vince from the early days. And I think there was even a scene where he went to recruit Andre. And I think in the movie, like they had Linda waiting tables, and then it sort of died off. We never heard any follow up. Do you think that movie ever becomes anything, or probably not?
That movie? No, I read the script. It was worse than god awful. So no, not anything like that. Unless somebody just wants to go out there and make a bad movie. But the possibility, look, you never say never. So I say that anything is possible.
Elliot has a great question here. What makes a good wrestling teacher like Dr. Tom so good?
Patience and understanding. Patience, because you're going to watch someone do it 1,000 times wrong before they get it. And then you start counting all over because they need to do it 1,000 times right before they're ready. Patience, number one, and understanding and being able to explain why you do something and why you don't do other things.
Anthony,
A good teacher's a good teacher.
By the way, give a plug. Tell everybody where they can find Dr. Tom.
Well, if you'd like to find out for yourself, you could go to jpwaacademy.com. It's just Jacob Prichard's Wrestling Academy. And it's in Knoxville, Tennessee. Dr. Tom teaches and trains up-and-coming wrestlers that would like to get into the business. Or if you just like to know what the hell it's like to train to be a professional wrestler, then the JPWA Wrestling Academy, that's the place to go. Dr. Tom Prichard and Glenn Jacobs Kane, the mayor of Knoxville County, they do a great job. And I was there just a couple weeks ago. Got a hell of a group of young students, some that really want to be in the business and some that are just doing it because they want to have the experience of doing it. So whatever it is, it's pretty cool. My son Kane actually got to participate in a class.
Oh, cool.
And go through all the drills. And it was fun watching him take bumps and get in the ring with my brother.
Was he bruised from running the ropes like everybody is their first time?
Yeah, and very sore. I enjoyed that.
Kurt Nutt wants to know, could you please do an episode on the Pile Driver music video VHS? I would love to hear how it came together. I watch it with my 5 sons every morning before I drop them off at the university for class. So it would mean a lot for my family. I really hope that's true, that even in 2020, people are watching the Pile Driver music video before school.
Yes.
Yes, we can do a whole episode on that.
Sure.
Come the fuck on. You weren't even there for that, were you?
Yeah, the Pile Driver I was definitely there for. That's when I got hired and we came in to do the vignettes. And we did, Girls in Cars, Pile Driver. That was Coco Ware and everybody at the construction site. Slit. Just a jive bro. A jive bro when you never get nothing in the end. Let me think. What else? Demolition. Here comes the axe. Here comes the smasher. The demolition. Walking disaster. Ha! Wax, Jibble, honey, what do you say? Oh, sorry.
Don't do that.
In my
No. Hey, we do have a fun follow-up question about music though. Dismal Abysmal wants to know, why do some performers get constantly updated ring music like Bret Hart, The Rock, and some keep the same one forever, like Shawn Michaels or Legion of Doom? Is this something the talent requests, or is it a decision made by the office?
It's a little bit of both. If there are tweaks in their character, then there are tweaks in their music at times. Sometimes they request, they want to do something a little bit different. And then others are iconic that you can never change. Like, when it comes crashing down and it hurts inside. Dun, 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 dun. Gotta be a man.
If Bruce could have grown up in one wrestling family, the Armstrongs, the Harts, or the Von Erichs, which would he have chosen and why?
The Funks. But out of that group, probably the Armstrongs.
Roll Tide on that. Michael Salinas wants to know, whose idea was it for Big Dick Johnson?
Big Dick was originally, it was a one-off type of deal, and it just kind of became a rib of Big Dick Johnson. You know, what's his name? Richard Johnson. You just call me Dick. And ladies like to call me Big Dick Johnson. So it was to do a deal with Vince as a male stripper. And we, Triple H and I, might have convinced old Big Dick Johnson there to spray Vince with the bottle of baby oil. And we told him we just put water in it, which I don't think was true. And I'm pretty sure we might have forgotten to smarten Vince up to it, because we wanted that real reaction of a naked man spraying himself with baby oil and then getting it all over Vince. So it just worked so well, and there was such a reaction to him that was naturally revolting. He had to reappear. And probably the best one is when he got up in front of JR, and JR was so pissed off for real, JR just punched him in the nuts.
Boy, JR will sell for you, will he not?
Oh, please.
What preconceived ideas of Eric Bischoff did you have before meeting him? And of all the talent that's ever arrived in WWE, did he come in with the most heat?
You know, Eric, it's funny because I think I had preconceived. I had met Eric for a tryout in whatever, 1989, 1990, whatever the hell it was. And it was brief. Hey, how you doing? Here, sell this mop or broom or whatever the hell we made him sell. Eric was nice enough, but you had heard all these rumors about Eric and his extracurricular activities, rumored innuendo, and all this other bullshit. He also was the guy that had been quoted as saying he wanted to put us out of business. And that all, you take it all very personal in this business. So while I had not ever worked with Eric, I probably did have preconceived notions, but at the same time, I learned in this business that you treat people and you give people the opportunity, and you find out on your own. You don't listen because other people may have had different experiences, bad experiences with people, and had an axe to grind. But you judge people and how they treat you and how they are with you. And that's the way that it should be with everything. So when Eric came in, there were people who had worked with Eric before that did not wish to work with Eric and felt that, this guy's an asshole, what have you. I chose to have an open mind and work with him. And I removed those preconceived notions and just looked at him as another talent that was coming in that I felt we could make some money with, and took him under my wing. No, I worked with Eric constantly, and I instead looked at it as an opportunity to kind of pick his brain, to tell me about the other side and what he was doing and why he was doing it in WCW. So you can choose how you want to treat people and how you want to do it. You can either listen to rumor and innuendo and have preconceived notions, never having met the person before or given them an opportunity to be good or bad with you, or you can listen to other people's bullshit who may have an axe to grind or whatever. I've learned that giving people the benefit of the doubt has worked pretty well in my favor. So I try to do that. I mean, go back to Conrad, if you will. And you said this to me, not long ago. It was, you had preconceived notions of me before you met me.
Listen, it's what everybody, specifically, they had preconceived notions of Tony Schiavone. Oh, he's bitter. He hates wrestling. They had preconceived notions of Bruce Prichard. Oh, he's a corporate stooge. He's a kiss ass. He's a yes man, whatever. And then these podcasts have shown people, hey man, that's just like what you heard. Here's them as they really are. And fuck, it's been a blast. And I'm glad that we've sort of helped change the narrative, and it's been fun.
But what was your preconceived notions of me?
Well, you came in very cold at first, and then you warmed up, and then we became best buds. But yeah, I didn't know exactly what to expect. I just knew what I had read, and what I read was you were a fucking stooge, and they were right, but that didn't keep me from loving you any less.
No, they weren't right.
Well, no, I'm just saying your preconceived notion of me was, oh, Flair's buddy, right? Yeah, suspect at best. And it worked out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying, me and you hanging out together. I do think that you even came into the podcast a little closed-minded. You sort of had your opinion formed about, nope, I'm done with wrestling, and wrestling's in my rearview mirror, and I don't give a shit. And I just kept pushing. Why not? What if? Let's try. And you did. And I'll be damned if you didn't put yourself out there and got over again. Not I used to be over. I am over, motherfucker.
No guess needed.
Yeah. I love we're just repeating all of our old bullshit. Hey, 2 more questions, then we'll wrap this one up. Anthony wants to know, whatever happened to Harvey Whippleman? Do you still stay in contact with him? He was always one of my favorite heel managers.
Harvey worked for the company for years, still does, with everything that's going on. Hasn't been involved as much just because of the situation. But Harvey, living in Walls, Mississippi, has got his cotton gin that he transferred into a home and is doing very well. So he's still around, still doing well. I keep in touch with him through mutual friends and check up on him from time to time and just make sure that he's doing all right. And he is. Hell of a talent.
All right.
We always weren't the best friends. He hated me.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Because you were King Stooge and he wanted your shot. He wanted your spot.
Right. Exactly.
He didn't want to be a curtain jerker Stooge. He wanted to be the main event Stooge.
I guess.
No, serious business. Why did he hate you? That's news to me.
Well, I think that, during the time, first of all, a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of perceived, just different things in how he felt he was being treated. And through time, you realize, okay, maybe it's not all that. And everybody grows up.
Let's wrap things up with a little word association from Chris Hansen. You can just do a line or two or a word or whatever you want, but I'm going to rapid fire, 5 or 6 talent here.
Catch a Predator?
No, I don't think that's him. I think he spells it a little differently.
Damn.
But just in case, why don't you have a seat over there?
Okay.
Skandar Akbar.
Great guy. He was one of the first people in the United States ever to bench press 500 pounds. Big Jim Webber from East Texas. Great guy. Great guy.
Iron Mike Sharp.
Clean.
Hammerstone.
I don't know what a hammerstone is.
Jerry Blackwell.
Bonnie Hammer?
I'm pretty sure he means the MLW champion.
Oh, fuck me. I'm sorry. My head was somewhere completely else. I've seen him. I've seen pictures of him and seen him. Impressive looking guy. I haven't seen enough of him to give you one way or another. My head was somewhere else.
No, in fairness, I threw 2 old school names at you and then a current 29-year-old guy. So
yeah.
Absolutely no disrespect to Mr. Hammerstone, who I know listens to our pods. Listen to the next name, Jerry Blackwell. It's like this is a game of which one of these is not the other. Chris Hansen may be just a big Hammerstone fan, wanted to slip it in there. Shout out to the MLW champ. But Jerry Blackwell.
Impressive looking guy. Yes. I when you said it, I'm like, does he mean Bonnie Hammer? Jerry Blackwell. Goddamn, Georgia. Just Here's the funny thing about Blackwell. Until I actually met Jerry, and I only met him on 2 different occasions, I thought that he was this big, huge guy. Jerry was only like about 5'9".
Right.
He wasn't that big.
It was just big
But-
around.
Yeah. But a sweetheart of a man.
Tiger Chun-Li.
Tiger Chung-Lee, man. Kim Duck was what he worked at from Korea. And Kim used to, in the old, now I'm going back to like 1975, maybe 74. I was a kid, young kid. But Kim Duck always had some of the most beautiful girlfriends I'd ever seen in my life.
The Great Muta.
Met Great Muta one time in New Haven, Connecticut. Pat Patterson and I went to an NWA show and just said hello to a few of the boys. I'd never met Muta before. Gary Hart was there, and Gary was afraid that we were going to try and steal Muta, but just said hello to him. Super impressive. I thought that Muta was absolutely unbelievable in his presentation, and I think that should have been much bigger.
Let me ask, why didn't we see Great Muta in the WWF?
Well, first of all, probably Gary Hart. Gary kind of controlled him here in the U.S., and that was kind of a shoot deal in how business was done. And Gary was very protective of that. So the other thing was, by the time that Muta went back to New Japan, he was a megastar over there because of what he had done in the U.S. So Muta didn't really have a desire to go anywhere else and do anything else. He was a big star in his home country.
I just think it would have been cool to see him and Rick Rude, or him and Mr. Perfect, or him and Brett, him and Hogan. Could have been fun. But since you brought him up, why not Gary Hart? You know, once upon a time, this was the land of the managers. It felt like every heel act had a heel manager, and Gary Hart, to hardcore fans, always regarded as one of the better heel managers. Why not a shot in New York?
Just didn't jive. They didn't click.
They being Vince and Gary.
I think Vince and Gary just didn't click. And plus, you had Gary, who really enjoyed being in charge. Gary liked booking in Dallas, and Gary liked his position in Georgia. He was a top guy. Thought Gary Hart was very creative. Gary was always really good to me and very nice to me. So I got nothing bad to say about Gary Hart. Plus, I thought he was just a fucking awesome manager.
Do you think that's a nice way of saying he was too headstrong to work for Vince?
Gary was too headstrong to not. Yeah, fuck nice. He was too headstrong. I told this story recently. The creative ways that you think of now that are people would think were silly that Gary used to do, but Gary would do this angle where he would talk about Gary would be barred from the building. Okay. So the spoiler has got to wrestle Jose Lothario, but manager Gary Hart is barred from the building because Gary had interfered in all their matches. So Gary would cut the promo the week before. It's like, just because Gary Hart is barred from the building doesn't mean I can't buy a ticket, Paul Bosch. Doesn't mean I can't have a flashlight and sit up in E3 with my flashlight. And maybe I'll shave my mustache so nobody's going to recognize me, put a baseball cap on like all these common people out here. And the spoiler and I have worked out cues that I can tell him. I can communicate with my man through a flashlight. I don't need to be ringside. So the next week, people all over the arena came with flashlights. And so when the spoiler and when the match started, people are all flashing their lights and spoilers looking out into the arena and like pointing and going, is that you, Gary? Okay. And everybody, then it's like, oh shit, is that you over there? Simple shit that worked and got people all over the arena. Everybody brought a flashlight to trick the spoiler, to make them think that they were Gary Hart. Those bastards.
Let's do a couple more here. Abdullah the Butcher.
nasty.
Really?
Abby,
Do you ever eat at his restaurant?
no,
So
I
nasty's a real
never have.
thing, man? I mean, are you being
Have
serious?
you?
No, I don't think it's open. It may have reopened.
Yeah, the one thing about Abby was Abby always was dressed to the nines. Always very well dressed and shit, but Abby was brutal, and you either loved him or you hated him.
The Sheik, Ed Farhart. Ed
Farhat.
Yeah.
Yeah, ahead of his time, a real innovator, and it's he was one of those guys that made it huge he made it huge in his home of Detroit, but everywhere that he went, he was a top guy. He could come in and leave. He was that special of an attraction and was able to draw money every place he went. Very, very unique attraction. I would say unique and kind of the first of his kind is a heel attraction.
The Giant Baba.
Overrated.
Really?
Yeah. I just going over meeting with Baba and that whole fiasco. We've talked about it before on the show. I didn't feel that Baba had a lot of respect for anybody other than himself. And maybe, I just had a bad week with the guy, but, wasn't really impressed. Plus, I don't feel that he treated us very well. And yeah, I just felt he was overrated.
What about Antonio Inoki?
Antonio Inoki is one of the greatest promoters ever. You look, and when I say that, I look at self-promoter. Inoki working himself into the deal with Muhammad Ali. Inoki working his way into the Japanese Senate. Inoki and the stunts that he pulled with Tiger Jeet Singh. Inoki was a great promoter because he knew how to get outside of the box and stay over for many, many years.
All right, last two here. Buddy Rose and Doug Summers.
Doug Summers, man, married to Mike McGurk, Leroy McGurk's daughter, and my first cohort play-by-play commentator, analyst, whatever the hell she was. Super sweet lady. Doug was the stereotypical journeyman wrestler. Nothing good, nothing bad about him. Doug was pretty average. Playboy Buddy Rose lived the gimmick, man. He was Playboy Buddy Rose. In Portland, Oregon, in that territory, there was nobody bigger. Buddy went to the towns in stretch limousines. Buddy flew in private jets and snorted more cocaine than anyone should ever be allowed to do. He always had beautiful women on his arm as a shoot. And Buddy lived the gimmick. I think that if Buddy hadn't gotten as big as he did, overweight, that Buddy could have continued on and had a hell of a run with Hulk Hogan in the late 80s. I believe that. I think Buddy still was that good of a performer, but I think Buddy lost confidence in himself when he got big. He could still bump, he could still go, but I think Buddy lost a little bit of his edge. An outstanding performer. A big fan of Buddy Rose. Paul Pershman's his real name.
Well, that's going to bring this week's hashtag Ask Bruce Anything to a close. Next week, we'll be back at you with a little Bob Backlund action. And don't forget, coming up after that, it's all about SummerSlam. We'll start with 05, then we'll go to 1990. You can get all these shows early and ad-free over at adfreeshows.com. If you've got a question for the show and you want to participate in the Bob Backlund episode, it's simple. Go follow us on Twitter at Prichard Show. We'll have something pinned to the top, fielding your questions for Bob Backlund. Until next time, he is at Bruce Prichard. I am at Hey, it's Conrad, and we are out of time. We'll see you next week right here on Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard.
Rock on!
What about Shaka Khan?
Yeah, that's dead.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.